we do have the white pieces against the 2000. I'm gonna go d4, d5, and I'll actually start with knight f3 with the idea to avoid bishop f4, c5. He does play g6, meaning that he's perhaps going into a Grunfeld type of setup. But I have a very interesting idea against the Grunfeld, nevertheless, so I think we'll try it out in this game. I'm gonna try to play something more of like a berry attack. He does play for knight c6, which is honestly a very weird setup. I haven't really seen anything like that before, but I guess this way it will be even more interesting. So now that he plays it this way, I could really break with e4 and be better, but just to keep it more like London thematic, I will play with h3. And he does play e6. I think you can just could develop the bishop to like d3. Just gonna go for the more humble square, gonna castle, and I think we'll just try out to push pawns on the queen side now with like b4, a4. I think that is the plan in this position. So yeah, just gonna go like this, hopefully try to get him b5, and we'll see what he's up to. He might be trying to break with like e5, I don't know. I'm just gonna, yeah, continue. Do my thing here on the queen side. If he takes on a1, I'll be taking back with the queen. Knight now has to make a pretty awkward retreat to like b8, and I'm thinking whether we can actually go queen a5, hit this pawn, and if he plays like b6, then there's queen a7, which is actually gonna be a double attack. So I think that's what we'll try to do. The other move would be to play like c6 in this position, but maybe bishop c7 was annoying, and I think now we actually get to win the game because both of these pieces are under attack, and to me it looks like his queen side is collapsing. If he plays knight d7, the funny thing is that his queen gets trapped, so that is actually quite a cute idea. I think he'll play bishop d7. That looks to be best to me, but then okay, never mind, he played d5. I can still take the knight. He takes this bishop, so I think it's just better to take with my knight, also hitting the pawn on f7, which is really important, because if he plays knight d7 now, then I can trap his queen once again. And he does play king g8, but now we can just take the free knight, and yeah, I cannot really add anything to this. It's just that we managed to get in this super juicy queen a5 and queen a7 combo that just won the game. I'm just gonna collect c7 on the next move, because he has to move the queen, and yeah, I'm expecting resignation pretty soon, but yeah, also I'll keep focused. Like, you don't need to relax too early in these games, because people tend to never really resign, as you can see. So yeah, I think next up I'll try to go for something like bishop to e5, yeah, forcing some trades. Perhaps I could also yeah, just keep collecting with like queen b6 and this kind of stuff. He does go for knight h4, which looks a little bit annoying. I'd actually love to get rid of that knight, and I'll play knight f3. I don't really want him to have any pieces near my king, and yeah, I think that's really really clean right now. I'm gonna go bishop e5. Again, looking forward to trade even more pieces. I'm gonna be taking on g7, and I think I'm gonna be trading queens next if he does take. So yeah, I think that's like the easiest way to win games. I can take with the knight, but I'll take with the pawn, with the idea that I see rook d1 and bishop takes on d5 as being unstoppable. So yeah, just an easy way to open things up. He does trade. I don't need to worry about the back ranker, as I have played h3. And yeah, threat is now to play e6, collect f7. I can go e7 now and get a new queen, basically. And he does resign, and I think that actually turns out to be quite an instructive game, showing how you can yeah, effectively advance your pawns on the queen side, and yeah, then your opponent is lacking counterplay. Like, he really had to break with e5 at some point to get any play, but he was unable to, and then we just got a free hand. But we can actually look a little bit closer into this game if we go back into the analysis tab. So yeah, let me just jump there. We can switch the scene as well. And as I was saying in the opening, it started getting weird since he played g6 on the second move. Like, the Grufeld setup is definitely very common, but they usually do it from this move order. They go knight f6, and once they see you committed to the London, then they try to play g6. And we've seen this recently being played by Fabiano Caruana against Jan Krzysztof Duda. I have actually made a separate YouTube video about that opening, and a very interesting idea used by Duda, which was based on pushing h4. So for like example, in this position, I remember that game going something like c3, b6, something like that, knight d2, bishop d7. Not sure if this was like the exact move order, but it ended up being something like this. So in this position, kind of the key idea was to play h4 and then h5, and yeah, white just got a very nice position out of the opening, even though it ended up being a fighting game, and yeah, eventually Fabiano won. But something like even funnier was that after knight d7, actually he got like h5 in, and after here, knight d7, let's say, he could have gotten something like this, and then the key idea was to take and then go queen a4, then the queen was coming into h4. And I know it may be not working so well here, but yeah, I mean, I just wanted to remember this theme. Like, you can definitely check out that video if you're interested into this specific position, but I thought that's just a cute idea that I wanted to highlight. And yeah, in the game, it wasn't really theoretical or anything. We just ended up playing like pretty much a normal London. As I was saying, like, if I really want to, I could open up the position here with like e4, and I thought that is one of the best moves, just trying to get into some kind of a Pirc that is yeah, quite nice for white, because in the upcoming positions the issue for black is this knight on c6, because what you really need to do as black in these positions is to activate this bishop, and you usually do by advancing with c5, but with this knight being awkwardly placed on c6, it's not gonna be that simple. And yeah, I went h3 though, just trying to keep it more kind of London typical type of positions. And after e6, yeah, what I did I think was okay, and I started advancing pawns. Like, you can play c4 as well, but to me it just looked a little bit more natural to start pushing this way. And after he went for king h7, b5, he can definitely play something like knight a5, trying to keep the position a little bit more close, but I would have probably liked something like knight e5 now. Whenever like a knight goes onto the edge, then you have this strong knight move coming into the center. So if he plays something like f6, I don't really mind, since these pawns are gonna be like really weak on the king side, and I think you could simply go back, for example, then break with like e4, and these pawns are gonna be really weak. We can use ideas such as advancing the h pawn later, and then, you know, yeah, activating this bishop further. So in the game, he kind of gave me a free hand on the queen side, and ooh, I actually had something even better. Queen a5 is actually the second move onto the endgame, but b6 was actually more accurate, with the idea that he can't take as the knight drops. And yeah, I mean, there's literally no way to defend that pawn on c7, because knight a6 runs into bishop takes, and then we can take on c7, and white just wins. But I really like queen a5. It's kind of a typical theme. Like, if you've seen one of my previous videos, there was an attack on the king side, and first I went queen h5 and then queen h7, with kind of the same motive of provoking g6, just that here we provoke b6. I'm not sure if any of you are watching, but yeah, you should definitely check out the rating climb if you've missed that video. So after b6, I went queen a7, and yeah, problem is that, well, if we go queen a7 first, he can just move the knight, and yeah, I mean, it's not that clear how to make progress, even though white is obviously still much better. But I went queen a5 just for the sake of forcing b6, and now this actually counts as a double attack, and now white is just completely winning, and the rest of the game is not really like relevant at all. So for example, funny line here, if knight d7, we can take with the bishop, queen gets trapped. And another one is after knight e5, if he plays knight d7 this time, there's knight f7 and queen gets trapped once again. So I thought that is a pretty cute idea, and yeah, I think that is pretty much it about this game, since the rest was pretty straightforward. After I traded his knight with knight f3, and yeah, again, generally trading pieces should really make the game easier to win when you're up so much material. And we do get the white pieces against the 2023 guy. Goes d4, d5. Gonna start with knight f3, avoiding the c5 lines, and just gonna be playing bishop to f4. c5, e3. Does go for a6, which I'm not sure it's such a useful move in the London. For him, I'm gonna be going c3, and now the bishop develops to d3. So far, I really like my opening. He does go h6. Perhaps keeping knight h5 ideas in mind. I think I'll just castle though. I want to show you a plan. If he goes knight h5, I want to take on c5. Let's go bishop d6, and against this, I think we actually get into some lines where I take on c5 and then I go e4, which are not like super common, but I think it is best here because he kind of spent a lot of time moving his bishop. And on d4, I was thinking to take with a knight, but maybe taking with a bishop is also interesting there. I'll show you after the game. So he does castle though, but we can now play e5, I guess, and then just knight b3, and we get like a French defense type of position. That should be just better for me. Does play knight h5, which I wasn't really expecting him to do. I'm thinking maybe bishop h7, but doesn't make any sense. Sometimes I just like to consider this type of move. Just drop the bishop to g3, should be okay. Defend the pawn on e5 somehow, and yeah, we just have a very nice positional advantage because this bishop is very happy there. He has quite a sad bishop on c8. I'm gonna get my knight into d4. That is like first step that we need to do in this structure. Okay, now we can trade a pair of knights, bring this other one to d4, and then the queen is now having a free path to join the king side. Queen h5 I think is a very juicy move. Next up, we're ready to push the f pawn, and yeah, black should try to break with like b4 somehow. I think I'll just play a3. I think that's a very nice move to stop him from going b4, and a5 fails to bishop takes. I think he should have tried b4 for a better chance of getting counterplay. Let's go bishop c5. Idea to take, I guess, but I think you can just allow it. Go f4, stopping him also from getting queen g5. That was perhaps another one of the ideas. If he takes, I think I'm okay with it, and even though he could potentially win a pawn there, if he takes and he does go like queen b6, he can start queen b6 immediately as well. But I can just go rook d1, and once he takes twice, I can just move my king. He does go f5. Generally, we should just go for the en passant, but maybe we can just also break with g4 and ignore it. I think I'll start with like rook d1, and then we can break later with g4, because I can take, but he takes with a queen, and he does have some pressure on d4 while opening up the position. So I'll just do this, keeping it very positional, and the idea is to break with g4 next. Can't take that one because I'm pinned, and we'll see. Maybe he plays queen 8 in this position. That would be actually a very good question, if he trade queens or not. I think the answer should be no, because we would like to break with g4 eventually, and we might have to play like queen f3 type of move. I'm not sure though. Maybe considering queen f3 on queen e8. See how he's willing to play. Queen f3, queen e8, queen f3. I think he'll have to play queen g6, stopping us from getting g4, but maybe we can, you know. Now I'm actually finding a very cute idea. If he goes queen g6, he can bring my king maybe towards to e3, then use the rook over the h file and then break with g4. So I think we're actually gonna go for it. King is actually very safe there, and I just want to do that. And it looks like we're getting a pretty mating attack. Let's see if that works. He does evacuate his own king, which is pretty funny. Gonna go king e3. Let's play h5. I think we can start attacking that pawn. Gonna double. I think we can double up. Maybe rook h3 is clever to defend this pawn. Let's play queen there. I think we can just double up. If he takes, I think we're taking with a pawn. This is gonna be a super positional game, but I really like this type of games. Could break with g4. That looks like winning a pawn though. Yeah, I might have to go for it, even though I would have liked to keep it more interesting, more kind of maneuvering. Now I'm winning the pawn, so it's all good. If he takes, I'm always taking with a king, activating it. And Yeah, we'll see. Does play king g7 though. Doesn't make much sense to take there. We'll just collect the free pawn. Even though it's like a double pawn, it's gonna be super important to have. Yeah, just gonna be taking. Still, it's super important that his bishop is really bad. And now I'd really love to bring this bishop into the game somehow. Considering like a4 ideas, he might be willing to activate this way. So I think I'll play this move, and on king there I'll just drop the rook back to h2 so that his king is staying in the way of the g file, and yeah, I'll just have to play like king d2 next, threatening to take. Maybe it was clever to, okay, just blunder, but it was maybe clever to start with, let's say bishop e2 and then king d3, so that, yeah, I can still take with a king on d4, but okay, he just blundered and I can just take his rook and then the bishops. Yeah, I'm gonna bring the king to d4. Just gonna block everything. See that the bishop has literally no squares. That is the nightmare of a French player. Okay, I think that was actually pretty okay game. The opening was pretty smooth, I think. Here, after we castled, I took on c5. Maybe taking on d6 is also a thing, and then taking there with e4. But I thought taking on c5 and then going e4 was also very doable, with the idea that, well, if he takes, I can take with a knight. But you see, taking with the bishop is actually not very stupid, because we have like bishop c6 ideas, and if he takes, I can take, and this type of endgames could be definitely very annoying for him once we get in like a knight into d6. So yeah, I think I would have taken with a knight probably, and I was ready to play this kind of positions, like, yeah, white has a nice edge. Like if he plays bishop d7, he's really struggling to castle, and I think most natural plan would be to just start advancing the pawns with like b5, even though the computer, yeah, likes this concrete knight e5 better for good reasons, because yeah, if he takes, then both pawns will be under attack and white is just much better. But in the game he ended up playing short castle. Maybe he had knight h5, haven't really considered it. I guess I would have gone for something like this, and then either knight or bishop takes. Yeah, with like a playable position. The computer thinks this is equal. I think it's definitely a position that is full of life, and I kind of tend to like white in this structure with this 3 against 2 majority, because it's gonna be easier to create a pass one. But obviously the presence of the 2 bishops in black's favor might be holding the balance here. In the game though, he went castles. I played e5. Looks like e5 was not best. I should have started with h3, because he was able to get in knight h5. But yeah, even though in the game looks like once I got the script with knight b3, I was doing very well. In fact, he's supposed to break with f6, which I can definitely understand, but I think the position should be equal at best for black. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, I think I can generate enough control over the e5 square, but it should be definitely way unclear than it was during the game, because after I got in this script with a knight on d4, especially when I managed to do this thing with queen h5, I definitely felt very comfortable, and I was I actually had knight e6 in this position. That was interesting. Didn't really look like doing that much, but it was like an interesting try. Yeah, probably still kind of equal. Who would play rook f5 in this position though? It looks like such a dumb move. I don't know. I'm not even gonna try to understand it. So I went a3. I think he should have perhaps tried b4 in this position. Okay, maybe it looks like knight e6 is the only good move, but you see, like, this is what I was talking about. If I don't find knight e6, it's actually an equal position, because black has enough card play, and if I take, then I'm losing control over the d4 square, and this knight is no longer going to be that safe. And on b4 I would have probably played something like this idea, to take back with a pawn and try to, yeah, have a grip on d4 and then go f4 f5 and just deliver some play on the king side. But b4 was better. I think a3 was a nice positional move, because now this is gonna be much trickier to achieve, and a5 is never really good because we can just take that pawn on b5. He went bishop c5, and now the main curiosity for me was whether he's fine after grabbing the pawn. As I was saying, he can do it in many different move orders, but I was really like thinking whether this is good for black or not. Apparently the computer is not scared, but yeah, I mean, I thought we should have something after like f5. Like, he can take the pawn on e5, that's correct, but after rook e1, still it does look very shaky. I feel like we're getting a lot of play. Like, just imagine we are able to get something like pawn takes and then queen g6, but yeah, he has better defenses, like for example playing maybe queen d4 in this position, idea to take, yeah, could take on f7 according to the computer, but that's really unclear. So definitely he should have gone after the pawn, now that I'm thinking about it. So for this reason f4 is kind of inaccurate, and I should perhaps start with this move, with the idea to have, let's say, if he plays like that, I can just go bishop to b1. Not that he's really threatening in the current position, but that I'm preparing f4, f5, so he doesn't take on d4 with check. So on f5, I think what I did with like rook d1 was okay, just getting a firm grip over d4, and I really like this plan of going king f2. I don't know if the computer likes it. He really suggesting king h2 and then g4, but I really like this idea, man. Just getting the king to e3, just going YOLO, and yeah, perhaps just going bishop e2 wins here, just targeting the h5 pawn, but I wanted to go for positional chess, and I had to cash in the free pawn. Yeah, rook g5 was a little bit unnecessary. Then I realized that I'm supposed to go rook back, which is fine. Apparently the computer likes taking on f5 and then grabbing with the rook, just sacrificing the piece, because these guys are gonna be pretty tricky to stop. And there's b4, bishop a7, rook d6 maybe coming. So yeah, don't take on f5 though. That is not a greatest human approach. And yeah, I played king d2, which turns out to be okay, threatening this. So he was supposed to take, but this is still like completely winning now. Yeah, because I'm gonna be breaking the spawns somehow. I think I'll just do something like this and then a4. But yeah, I am up a pawn, even though it's like a doubled one. It's still definitely gonna be quite huge. Potentially even just like fix this pawn with b4 and then break with a4. It's mostly a bishop difference that will yeah, decide the game. So okay, I think that was pretty much it about this game, since after king d2 I can just take and collect the remaining pieces and we got a win. Okay, we do get the white pieces and we're facing a 2034 opponent, opening up with d4 e6, and we're gonna be going for our beloved London system. Gonna be playing e3, see how he's willing to play. On c5, I think the c3 is quite an interesting line, but we're just gonna keep it way more casual, way more London-like. And I'm gonna be, I could play h3, I could start with c3, could start knight d2. I think I like starting knight d2, because if he goes queen b6, there might be knight c4. So against bishop e7, yeah, I think I'm gonna go like c3. If he goes knight h5, I think I take on c5. That's the idea. That's play queen b6, but there's like knight c4. I don't know why would you allow that, because now the knight is actually gonna get into d6 and we will be chipping away on his dark squares. This is gonna be super annoying for him to deal with. If he takes, I'll take back with the bishop, and yeah, I'm not sure for how long he'll be able to live with that knight on d6. Plus we also managed to win a pawn, so that is actually quite good news. I think he'll play like something like b6. He does go knight h5. I'm liking knight e5 idea here. Yeah, hitting the knight, putting pressure on f7 as well. He might forget about the knight f7 move. Like, I can take here now intermediate move, going for the intermezzo. Could also just take back. I think I should really punish him though. Thinking to take, there's like queen a5 move. I can take on f4 in that position. He'll take on c5 and I don't know. I think I'll just keep it very simple. I don't want to overcomplicate for no reason. I'm just gonna take, if he takes on e5, taking back with a pawn. I could have gone for that complications, but I'm just up a free pawn, so no need to, head into any muddy waters for no reason. I'm just gonna castle idea to take on d6 with the rook, and all the endgames should be much better. He's unable to develop the bishop, and yeah, I think I'll just develop all the way to b5, putting pressure on his pieces, specifically on this pawn on d7. Does go f6. I can takes with the b pawn, and I'll just drop my bishop to c4, I think anyways. Yeah, I mean, now there's a new weakness on e6, so I think we're doing quite okay. Although maybe that was not the most precise thing I could have gone for, because now I see him being able to develop the pieces, but I have a cute trick here, because on king e7 we can take on e6 with a bishop. Is that like the best thing I could go for though? I could also go f5, e5, and then maybe g4 followed by f4. Like, I could go for the rook endgame, but I don't think it's best, so I'll start this way. e5, and I could go f4, but still I don't think that's best. I'll just go this first and then f4. I think I really need to kind of dominate his bishop to get the most out of this position, even though I'm like much better anyway I'm playing it. I think this is like the most instructive. Just gonna defend. If he takes, he's gonna be helping me opening up the h file for my rook. One king there. I think we go rook d1, keeping this bishop passive. No bishop d7 for him. And yeah, on b6 I think we can just go, could go b4, could also go rook d6 idea to take. I think that's what I'm liking better here. And if he goes bishop b7, I'll go rook d7, easily winning. Yeah, rook f7 next now, collecting pawn on g7. Yeah, this is just really big now. Just gonna be taking. Threat is rook g8. I think he's just that lost. Could also take h5 next, and yeah, it's gonna be a really outside pass pawn. Gonna go rook g8, bishop e6. I think that's killing the game on the spot. Yeah, trading everything, taking on h5, and I think that's GG. I don't think he's in time to catch the pawn if my math skills are on point. And he does find the resign button as well. So I think that was actually like a very instructive thing that I did there, trying to play against his bishop. So yeah, let's actually just jump into the analysis tab here. See what happened in the game from a bit of a closer angle. So after d4, e6, I got in this bishop f4 move. Yeah, just going for the London pretty much. When knight f6, e3, c5, and yeah, I was expecting some kind of b6 move from my opponent, going for the Queen's Indian type of structure. Also, I was expecting knight h5, and then the plan was not to go bishop g3, because that is just very comfortable for black, but to take on c5, with the idea that I was planning to get into this structure, where I have a very nice game played by Berkish Ferenc, analyzed on the YouTube channel. I think I'll just leave a card on the screen if you're curious into that you can click. And he did not want knight h5, went queen b6, but now after knight c4, knight d6, I just have a very big advantage, because if he takes, I can take. On knight e4, I can just collect this pawn, and if he does take on d4 first, then I was thinking to take and meet knight e4 with bishop a3, keeping his king in the center, and if he goes d6, I can play something like that, and then, yeah, I mean, just castling. I have the bishop pair. This pawn is like a little bit soft there. Perhaps I could do something like knight d2 to c4, and yeah, white just has a big advantage here. In the game though, he went king f8, and yeah, I just had like a very easy win. Like, as I was saying, after knight e5, knight f4, I've seen that I can take, and I could take on h8, but I couldn't really like evaluate these positions, to be fair. Like, maybe I end up being completely winning up on exchange, but if I somehow miscalculate something, it could definitely backfire. So for this reason, I decided to go for the more practical approach of just taking, as he has literally no moves. I just went for like easy play, developing f6. I could play knight c4, like keeping the knight, but I feel like taking it should be okay. He went rook d8, and here, like as I was saying, he went king e7, and as you see, the computer is giving bishop e6 while being very happy, but I think actually from a human perspective it will be much trickier to win this endgame than it looks. Even though you are up 2 pawns, 2 double pawns, I mean, I don't know what to say if this is so easily winning. I mean, yeah, if you're like very comfortable in rook endgames, should be, but I'm not that comfortable, and I think many people are not, so I don't really love bishop e6 in this position. I went f5. And on e5 again, like I could have gone f4. Idea if he takes, I take on e5, opening up the position. But again, if he plays like something like, yeah, I have basically no threat in this position. So let's say he can even take and go king f6. I am up a pawn, but it doesn't really look that obvious to me. How am I going to win this? Yes, I'm much better, but I don't really see such a concrete plan. Plus he is also able to coordinate. This rook will come into the game, so I really like this play that I did here, trying to dominate him with g4, playing against this bishop. Perhaps he should have tried g6, which I've missed during the game. He tried h5, which I've seen, but I can just play h3, and now I'm clearly better. His plan is to try to activate, bring this bishop in the game, so that's why I played rook d1, and after b6, oh, I should have gone rook d8, rook g8, which I've missed. That was a bad miss by my part. I went rook d6, which is still like completely winning though, and yeah, then it was like an easy win with this. But yeah, I think it was instructive that I really tried to play against this bishop. So yeah, I think that was pretty much it for this game. So we do actually get the white pieces once again, and I'm gonna be opening up with d4, facing a 2017 rated opponent, and he does go for d4 c5, and I'll try to play it as Londonish as I can, even though now we just got ourselves a transposition into the exchange Slav, but okay, let's see how it goes. It's still kind of similar to the London, even though we would love to have this pawn on the c5, let's say like on c3 instead of on e3, but okay, let's see how this goes. There are many ways to play this. I could go bishop d3, knight f3, could start with like rook c1. I think I'll start bishop d3, then idea to play knight e2. Okay, if he blocks his own like bishop with e6, I'm happy playing knight f3, I think, and yeah, I've noticed people going bishop g3 in this structure quite a lot. I think rook c1 is like a useful move to make. Let's see. We'll try to play on the queen side with like a3, b4, knight a4, knight c5. That is pretty much the plan in this exchange Slav. This bishop is a little bit happier than the other one on c8, and yeah, I don't think we need to be afraid of him breaking with e5. For this reason, like you're often see in the London, we go knight e5, but I don't think it's really that big of an issue here against the Slav, because when they go for it, black will have this pawn on d5 that is isolated, so I think we can just castle. He'll probably take, I'll have to take back, and he goes e5. Does go e5 right away. We will be trading everything. Yeah, and how do we continue now? I could try to like reroute this bishop to f3, which looks like a sensible plan. I could go queen d2 and rook d1. How do we do this? For some reason I seem to like queen b3 now, although he might get some knight g4 kind of play against my king, which is not that nice. I'll play queen f3. My idea is to actually perhaps try to trade queens with queen g3. Like I wanted queen b3, but then I was a bit afraid of knight g4, so I think we can just go queen g3. If we trade, I think I'm gonna be okay with that, as long as we manage to play against this pawn. So I think he should have tried to play something like this idea to break with d4, get rid of the weak pawn, because now I think we're in time with like knight e2 to d4. And if he does take, I mean, he still has the weakness. I have a bishop against a knight, and it becomes slightly better. Gonna get my knight into d4. That is definitely a very happy knight. The idea is to play with f3 and g4 next, no matter what. I'm happy trading both rooks actually, and then my knight will potentially jump into c5. Yeah, just gonna do that, and gonna trade and play g4. King's coming into f2. Yeah, this is actually like a very nice endgame to play. I can bring my king like all the way to d2. Because thing is I can bring it to like d3, but his knight will come into c5, so no need to allow that. Coming with check. I'll just bring my king closer to the center. Maybe we are not like forced to. Okay, b3, fighting against knight c4. Idea to go king d2 next. King is very useful into the center. Then we could potentially trade both rooks. Shall we? I think that could be something. Yeah, I think that's literally what we're gonna do. Knight d3, there's just king d2. King coming into c3. If king c5, there's like knight e6 check, which is a problem. And maybe we can get like this king to activate. This is gonna be like a very tricky endgame, I think, for him. How do we do it? Could start with a4. Okay, he does play king there. Okay, I can try this move. He can't take. There's g4. How's this endgame? I think it might be a draw. I think I misplayed. It should have been winning. He'll try to flag me though. I'll have to go for it. Okay, I end up being flagged. Okay, that was bad. I feel like this was a winning endgame though. I feel like this should have been really winning. That's a pity. Could have been like really instructive. a4 was terrible. Just go king d4, I mean. I'm actually curious whether this was any winning or not. Okay, like first of all, maybe I'm not supposed to bring my king to d2. Could just play like knight c6 type of move. But I feel like this should be winning. Ah, start g5. Yeah. Oh my god, this is actually so cool. So start g5, because then king d4 is actually having a threat. Yeah. And now this is just lost for him. Yikes. So like king c6, you just go g4 straight up. King d6, then we can open up and just free pawn. Yeah, I mean, I need this as like kind of winning, but it's so hard to get at this like king and pawn endgames accurately in 3+0, man. It's like so bad. Yeah, a4 was just nonsense. Even king d4 is okay. I was a bit afraid of b4, but then this g5 idea that I found later just wins. This would have actually been so good. I think this might actually end up being in the YouTube video anyways, because I find it to be like such an instructive theme, even though I ended up getting flagged. But just imagine, I mean, you can win games just by playing against the IQP, right? Okay, I'm not sure queen f3 was good. Apparently it's best move. Okay, I could start at f3 as well. Yeah, f3 g4 was better. But knight e2, which was fine. You can like literally just win games by trading everything, getting the king and pawn endgame in the Slav, and yeah, I mean, if you find the right idea here, just going g5, I'm pretty sure this is just winning. Yeah, g5, and let's see if he goes king c5, how do we win? Go b4, king c6, and then king d4. Okay, let's say he plays king d6, and we actually can just go e4. Wow. Just take. has no counterplay. If he goes there, there's this and then there's that. He's in the Zugzwang. King has to go, and yeah, pawn's not going anywhere. We might just end up collecting this bad boys here on the queen side, and there's just that lost. If he plays there, then there's king c5, just winning. So what else? There's really nothing else. So like main theme of this endgame is that we can actually get into play g5. And he can't take, obviously, because then we just play g4 and he one pawn is stopping 3, and the winning plan would be that well, anything wins here, I'm pretty sure, but easiest seems to be king d4, king d6, and then e4. So we managed to get a free pawn, even though we're actually down a pawn if we are, you know, trying to count them. So I think that this is actually like a very instructive theme in this endgame. It's a pity that, you know, at the start of this endgame, I literally had 27 seconds left, and I went a4, which is just a draw, and then I ended up getting flagged. But I mean, g5, how beautiful is that? I can't, yeah, stress this enough. It's such a cute move. If they go a5 again, like anything wins. King d4, let's say they play b4, you're ready to open it up with e4. If they take, just take, and king d6, you can just go king c4 apparently. On king c6, yeah, we have g3 and there in Zugzwang. If king d6, this wins. And if f5, then e5 wins. Free pawn. Wow, this was actually like so beautiful. Okay, I think we can go for the next game. It was a little bit of a pity that I was not able to get this game in time, but okay, what to do? You can't really win them all, I guess. If you enjoyed this video, you can click the other London system video that you see on the screen. And if you want something for the black pieces, then I highly advise you check out the French defense video that will appear on the screen. So with that being said, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you around on the channel. Take care.